So my friend installed the Trackspec hood vent in this 9901 Cobra hood. Same hood that was on a lot of V6 Mustangs. It's domed upwards in the middle, as a matter of fact. And I'm going to show a little video that he sent me and said that I could put on the channel here on what he had done to install this. So this looks really good. This is just a short clip I have when I was over there looking it over, and you can see a little bit of what he did here, but he's going to explain it really well in this video and tell you what he did. And so I want to thank him for sharing that video so we can all watch it. So here it is. This is what he did.
This particular hood is off of a 2001 Cobra, but they also fit various V6 Mustang hoods from 2001 to 2004 with some kind of deluxe package on it. But you can see I have a template on here right now, and can look at the dashed lines around there. It looks to be an interesting thing, so I highlighted those dashes around there, and you'll see in the upcoming pictures this is where I'm going to cut that hood. I was a little hesitant to do it, but I figured it's been done and I should be able to do it as well. You can see I just taped it on there, and there's a little bit of a crown on that hood, so I wasn't sure how well this is going to work, but as you'll see, we get it done. There's the dash lines, and this is where I'm going to cut it. There's some bracing underneath. You'll see later that I wind up cutting into that as well and trying to make this look good. This particular hood had a vinyl inlay on that inner part, and you'll see it's going to be a little bit of a challenge here because they use some brackets on the inside of this Trackspec hood vent. Here you can see I have it taped off, and I drilled some holes in the corner here so I can get my saber saw in there. There you can see number one hole, and I did that on all four corners, which you'll see a little bit later. Interesting project here. I enjoy doing these things, and I thought, well, let's see what happens. My good friend Justin SVT gave me this hood, and I thought, well, it's going to be a challenge. I don't want to ruin this hood, and I'm only going to use it for track days, by the way. So there you can see I've got 4 holes drilled in, and I'm going to take my saber saw and cut around to make a gigantic hole in this nice hood. It really cut fairly well. I really can't say too much, and I didn't really destroy anything on the hood. So I was pretty pleased with how things went so far. It does get to be a little tricky sometimes. There you can see I have a large gaping hole in this nice hood, and I'm wondering to myself, well, I wonder how well this is going to work. I mean, the template that Trackspec gives you is really a nice template, but that Trackspec hood is made for new GT350s, and Ford uses it on the GT4 models that they race. So it really isn't made for this hood, even though you'll see it fits real well. And when it's all done, it should look pretty decent. I didn't want to butcher it too bad, but you can see some of the inner bracing, and you'll see it even better as we go along here. It's going to need some trimming and some work. There I kind of just laid it on. I laid the Trackspec hood vent on top, and this is going to flow so much more air. I mean, I don't know how much the numbers are, but it's going to be 10 times the air that the factory 034 Cobra vents did. So I suspect this will make a big difference in cooling when you get those hot days and you're hard on it, on the track, lap after lap after lap. I did run into some temperature issues. They weren't real bad. I've got that figured out pretty well at this point, but I thought, this is a good option, and I enjoy doing these kind of things. You can see I just kind of got the hood in there, and I wanted to see if I could get this to fit. And you'll see there's some issues here in a little bit. with the fit is it has some tabs on the bottom of that hood vent. This hood vent is made out of metal. It's very strong and it's made really well. And they give you really good hardware to put this on. They give you little bolts with locking nuts and washers, and when it's on there, it's really nice and it fits well. But like I said, this hood has a little bit different crown on it than what the probably what the GT350s have, and you know, it isn't really made for this, but it does fit pretty well. I'm pretty happy with this. You'll see coming up here, I'll show you this the tabs that are on the back of this thing so that you can sandwich this in between the hood. There you can see the thing. I turned the hood vent upside down. There you can see the tab sticking up real well where my fingers are. That has to go between the hood, the bottom of the hood, and the vent on top of the hood. And it gives you very little room to maneuver this in place without really bending and destroying this thing. So I was very careful when I cut this in to make it fit properly. Seems like I couldn't slide it far enough forward because of the ridge in the front hood. You'll see later there's a plastic vent in the front, and actually it's coming up here on this picture. You see that plastic vent, and you can see there's the vent in the front, the black part. That's the original factory Ford vent, and then I had to kind of contour the back of that to fit those tabs in there, slide it forward enough, and yet get it down. And you can see underneath, there are those braces underneath from the original hood. I had to get in there with the die grinder and trim those out because that was a little bit of a problem too, to get it to fit with these metal tabs, then sandwich in. There you can see it really well what I cut. And it was a trial and error thing for sure. You can see now I've got the hood vent laying in there pretty well, and there'll be some close-ups a little better how it really fits in there. It really turned to be pretty good. I don't think I have any no bolts in there yet, but I was just test fitting it, and I did get it in there, and it turned out pretty good. On this particular hood, being white, after I cut everything, I sprayed the back of the hood where I cut the edges and the underneath, I sprayed with trim black so you didn't see that. You could still see it here because I hadn't done that yet. But when I sprayed everything, it really turned out really fit well and looked pretty well. I was pretty happy with the way things were going. This took more time than you would think. You would think just cutting a couple of holes in the hood or a large hole in the hood would go really quickly. But you have to take your time because, like I said, you can't get the vent far enough ahead to get those rear tabs underneath the hood, and it's a bit of a struggle. But it did work well, and took me a bit to do these things, but it worked well, and now you're starting to see how it looked. It looked pretty good. I think it's coming, and you can see by the angle how much more air is going to flow from out underneath the engine from behind the radiator, and that's the key to cooling: is airflow in, airflow out. If the air gets trapped behind the radiator, it can't dissipate the heat. So here we are now. We've got. So now I'm going to flip this hood over, and you can see what I did in the back. You can see how I trimmed around things, and like I said, it may not look the prettiest in the back here, but it will function well, and that's the goal of it all, is function here. This is just a track day thing for me, and I'm not using it for any other things driving on the street. And I'm going to leave it painted white. I'm going to put some letters on, some vinyl letters on the two front sides on an angle, which I didn't get yet. There you can see the red from the tubs I had behind it. You can see how much air is going to flow. It really quite a thing. I think it's going to be super. I haven't tested it yet, but I believe it's going to be a giant improvement on airflow. There you can see those tubs. Here's the tools I used. There wasn't a lot. My little jigsaw, my cutoff tool, a drill, screwdriver, a flashlight, some tape. That's really it, and it went well. I had to drill all those holes for those screws, and they give you a lot of screws to secure this thing. It turned out real well, I thought, and we'll see when we road test it. And I haven't installed it since I did this work. I had the hood on the car prior when we picked it up, and I thought there's a finished product here, and I thought it looked pretty good. I don't know what you guys think, but for a simple project to improve your cooling on your Cobra, if you do any kind of track days or you live in a hot, humid climate, you'll see. Look how nice this turned out. I mean, it looks factory from the top. Maybe not so much from the bottom, but from the top, looking good. I haven't washed it yet here or cleaned it. See my fingerprints and dust on it, but I'm pretty happy how it turned out, and I think, like I said, it's going to be a great improvement. And this hood was in pretty good shape that Justin gave me, and I thank him for it. But I'm sure you could go to a salvage yard and find a hood if you needed one, and I know you can get a hood vent from Trackspec. I mean, that's not even a question. I don't really remember what I paid for it, but it was a couple $100 or maybe $175 or $80. I don't remember exactly, but I think it's really a quality piece. It's not a flimsy, tinny thing. It's made out of heavy-duty steel, and looks to be pretty good, I thought. So we'll see what happens as we get it on the car. I'll try to get some pictures of it, and I hope you enjoyed this video.